All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. The video today is probably gonna ruffle some feathers. I apologize in advance if this video hits you the wrong way. Please understand from the outset that this is not a condemnation of anybody's playstyle. It's not saying anybody's bad at the game or saying anybody's stupid for doing this. But this video is going to talk about the benefits and negatives of playing the PvP aspects of this game. And again, from the outset, I want to say if you like to play PvP, then you're playing the game right. That is the most important part of this whole thing that we do where we play video games, right? You don't have to be the most efficient, you don't have to get all the rewards, you don't have to always win. It's a game at the end of the day, and I play a lot of games where I don't get any rewards, where I don't get anything monetary value wise, gotcha, whatever. It's okay, right? So don't take this as a personal attack just because I'm going over the efficiency aspects of the game. The efficiency aspects of this game are where I find my enjoyment. I did a video a while back with farming relics efficiently, and in that video I talk about where you get some of your rewards, i.e. droid brains, getting them from territory wars. My video came off a little bit of, I guess, critical of the PvP aspect, and some PvP players took offense to that. Again, I don't mean any offense by this, okay? Everybody plays the game for different reasons. I got asked a lot in that video, why would I even bother playing the game if I'm not playing PvP? There's many other aspects to this game that we enjoy, and we also enjoy taking it at our own pace. For me, that pace is a little bit different because I like to maximize rewards. I get a lot of enjoyment out of maximizing the PvE aspects of the rewards, and even the PvP aspects of the rewards, to be honest. That's why you see that I'm in Kyber 2. At the start of the season, I was entering into Kyber 1. This is the first season I decided I'm going to take off, right? So we can take a look here. I don't know if we can take a look at the history necessarily, but in any case, you know, there's a lot of rewards here that I was trying to get out of. If you look at my datacrons, you see that I do have a fair amount of datacrons. It's not like I've completely been sleeping on PvP, right? And, you know, I have a lot of history in this game. I've been playing for 8-9 years at this point, and I've been in some of the top end guilds, right? Maybe not like the Gauntlet or anything, but that's kind of irrelevant, honestly, because the Gauntlet doesn't get any value out of PvP. But I've been in 95% win rate guilds, right, for years at a time. In TW. So, you know, these rewards have been a big factor in my account growth overall to some extent in trying to maximize these, right? So I'm not against PvP. Just from an efficiency standpoint, it's becoming less and less valuable to me personally. And I'll kind of get into that, okay? This analysis is going to be backed up by numbers, okay? I got spreadsheets for you. I go through all the numbers so we can kind of get into that more so too. But again, I just want to make it very clear that if you enjoy PvP in this area of your life, in this stage of your life, in this stage of the game for you, then keep doing it. You don't have to have rewards to enjoy PvP. Right? Some people, like Zareth, for instance, just enjoys engaging with datacrons. He thinks datacrons change the game up quite a bit. I can't say I entirely disagree. There are aspects to datacrons that I do enjoy. Mostly I just don't enjoy farming them. And I also don't enjoy when there's something overpowered so that it kind of neutralizes any efforts that you would make in the PvP sphere. But again, to the extent that you enjoy it, keep doing what you're doing. Take this advice to the extent that you find it useful. If you want to be more efficient with rewards, fine. If you want to be more efficient with time, that's also fine. You know, wherever this video finds you, I'm sure your evolution in this game is going to change as you get older, as things in life start developing, as you play the game longer, as your interest in the game wanes and waxes, as CG releases new characters that you disagree with or you get really excited about, right? So with all that being said, let's go ahead and tackle the PvP aspect of this game. Let's go ahead and get into it. To start, we'll go over territory war, since I'm already on this screen, right? So territory war provides a few benefits, but by and large, the biggest benefit that this game mode offers is droid brains, right? So this is your primary source in the game for droid brains. If you win at first place at the maximum tier, you get 5 per territory war. If you get second place, you get 1 droid brain. And this is true for the first or the top 4 tiers. You get 1 droid brain if you lose. And if you get first place, they go gradually down by 1, right? So the differential on that reduces as you go down in tiers, all the way to kind of like the 5th tier from the top. You get 1 droid brain if you win and 0 if you lose, right? So if you're in that tier and you lose, you're not getting any droid brains. And then below that, whether you win or lose, you're not getting droid brains at this stage of the game, right? So this is where actually, as a recruiter, oftentimes in large guilds, this is actually something we see quite often. We'll have a player that has been playing the game for a long time. They got a roster of like 12, 13 million GP, but they haven't really taken the guild aspect of this game seriously. Or maybe not seriously, that's the wrong way to put it. They haven't invested a ton of time into dealing with that aspect of the game. So they don't even realize what they're missing out on, right? They have basically been in a guild with their friends, or maybe they started a guild, or they want to take it really casual and they just want to have 10 or so people that they like playing with in their guild. Obviously, that's going to hurt your rewards, because not only do you get rewards for like a raid and having a high score in the raid, which changes your max crate, but it also affects things like territory war, where you can't even qualify for the higher tiers to be getting droid brains. So you see a roster with 13, 14 million GP, and they bought a lot of their R9s because they weren't getting any droid brains from these tiers, whether they won or lost, right? We go down here, no droid brains. So this can drastically skew this analysis that I'm gonna do. This analysis, for the most part, is at a high level ranking, right? High GP. Everybody's gonna have ended up there eventually. And the time that you spend in the lower tiers changes drastically from person to person. Some people buy their way into the higher echelons really fast. Some people are really efficient and their account grows really quickly over time. And then other people take it slow and maybe they never reach the end game, or they'll reach it one day, right? And but if they're taking it really slow, if they're not really concerned about efficiency, then I don't think they're watching my videos. And if you're out there and you are, I hope you're getting value in some way. I hope you're at least seeing what the other side looks like. But that's my reasoning for gearing this analysis towards the higher end. Because even if you're a lower GP player, you can find yourself in these higher tiers of play. I feel like I've been in droid brain range since I was like 5-6 million GP, right? So I don't really know when TW came out and all that, but just as long as I can remember when I was playing this game mode, I feel like droid brains were on the table since they switched up. Now, another benefit of territory war rewards that some people are going to cite is these Datacron reroll materials, right? The tier 3 ones you can only get from TW, right? And you get 3 times as many at the top tier than you do if you lose. So people look at that and they're like, well, I got to get my Datacron reroll met, so that's like a huge reward. You're not factoring that in. That is true, but it is also not true. And the reason is these Datacron reroll mats only matter to people that care about PvP. If you don't engage in PvP, then they don't matter, right? So in the analysis, it's a 0 or 100% kind of thing. There's not really any middle ground. So that's why you won't see the Datacron materials play a big factor, because to those people that it matters to, and for those people that don't, it doesn't. And all it's going to do is help you further your territory war progress, right? You almost need them to compete in a way. Definitely at the high end of territory war guilds, right? when I was in there, they required so many rerolls. So we had to win in order to get the reroll mats in order to qualify for the territory war, because we had to reroll. And spending aside, right? But that's kind of this like vicious loop that PvP kind of gets you in, where you kind of got to keep winning in order to get the rewards to stay relevant, in order to keep winning, so on and so forth. So, but there are other rewards here, right? And they don't differ that much. Like arrow magnifiers, you get 1 versus 3. I mean, arrow magnifiers we buy with MK3, that's like 400 MK3, kind of irrelevant. You get another Zeta, which again could be useful, but it's like, okay, after 20 territory wars, getting first place versus second place, we will finally have gotten 1 ability material. You know, 20 that's 5 months, it's half a year kind of thing. So it's like, okay, if you really value that and you go 100% to 0% win rate, you got 1 ability material in half a year. Okay, congratulations, right? I'm just saying, like, the difference isn't that big of a deal. And again, this isn't a critique of players. This is a critique on the overall system. The differential here does not motivate people to actually play this game mode that much. That being said, a lot of people play it for different reasons. It's not about the rewards for them, it's about the competitive aspects. I've been in those last 2-minute territory war situations where it's exciting. We don't know if they're gonna hold or not, if they're gonna break through our defense, if they're gonna, you know, get enough banners in the end. Mad dash to the finish. We had a thing in my old guild called the Lunchbox Crew, where we were waiting, you know, most of us had already gotten our attacks in or something, or we were just stonewalled. And every time, kind of almost without fail, the last hour or 2 before TW ended, which for a lot of our players, that was the lunch time, you know, where they'd waited the whole territory war until their lunch break the day before it ends, or the day of it ending, and they would just come in and clear the board, right? We'd finally break through all the walls, everybody started playing, and it broke through all the walls. And then we would go from these like, well, we're losing terribly, to just complete slaughtering in the territory war. It's exciting. It's stress inducing to some degree, but it's exciting, right? So those are that's an overview of territory wars as a whole and what you're looking to get out of territory wars. Again, as you go down, this analysis gets tighter, right? The differences between the first place and the differences between the second place become less and less, because there's not really any higher level rewards to grant, right? So you're talking here about 0 droid brains to 0 droid brains, 2 Zetas to 3 Zetas still. You know, you're talking about 5 MK3 Datacron reroll mats. I don't like, how much does 5 even matter, right? Or 10, I guess. So you'd have to win 2 territory wars to get 1 reroll at the first level. So, you know, it matters less and less as you get down here, and ultimately at that area of the game, these things aren't as important anyway, right? You can make up for lacking Datacrons in a number of ways, because of the amount of characters and your decisions in farming and that kind of thing. GLs play a huge factor, etc. Okay, so now we'll go over to Grand Arena Championship to kind of talk about the rewards there. The first thing you get is a daily reward. So what division you're in is going to dictate what your daily reward is, right? At max level at Kyber 1, this is 260 per day, right? And you lose 20 crystals every division you go down. So generally the difference on the rewards between divisions is 600 crystals a month per division. So that's just kind of easy math to look at. Then you get rewards based on your victory. So you have 9 rounds of GAC per month, per season. And for each of those, no matter what tier you're at, I think you get 200 crystals for a loss, right? And then if you win, it goes up a little bit, right? 900, so 75 crystals usually between tiers, at least in Kyber. So 750 goes down to 675. So this is another aspect where, you know, what stage you're at of the game you're at. If you're lower GP, you're typically going to be lower in division. Obviously there's some people that can shoot way above their division and they really enjoy this aspect, right? But as you go lower, the differential between winning and losing becomes less and less and less, So whereas the time commitment doesn't necessarily get less and less. So that's something to keep in mind, right? And then after that, you get paid on the weekly event. So totally you have 3 weekly events, and you'll get paid based on your ranking, and that doesn't change between divisions at all. So you got the 750, the 500, 250 for 57th, and 100 for 8th ultimately. And then the last way you get paid is once per season. Wherever you end the season at, you get the championship reward for what your place is in that division. If you're below Kyber 1, then it doesn't really matter whether you're first or the last person in the division, you get the same one. If you're in Kyber 1, you get paid a little bit differently depending on if you're in the top 1,000 or not. So, and again, it's not that much crystals. It's like 85 crystals per tier, 90 crystals. It goes up a little bit, but congratulations to the people in the top 50. You know, they play this game for a lot of reasons, and a lot of them are content creators. They have a large incentive to go ahead and be the best at this game. But understand that this number is meaningless. That's not why they're doing it. There's no benefit here at this top level because of the massive amount of money these people spend in datacrons, and not crystals, datacrons. They spend, or not just crystals. They spend money, right? You have to. When you see the datacron rosters of these people, they have like maxed out rosters of datacrons. I think you can have something like 50. I don't know. I've never reached the max. Let's see here. Yeah, you can have, I think, several rows of these each season, and they have all tier 9s, right? Because they want those max stats. Even if you're not getting the character bonuses, they want to be able to re-roll these stats. And to do that, you need a D9 datacron. So, you can imagine how much that costs, right? So that little extra 100 crystals on the Grand Arena Championship for being at the top of the division makes not a difference to them at all. It's more about the glory of it, right? And fair enough, absolutely. Some other negligible kind of changes you get are the differences in GAC tokens, right? Now, if you watch my farming relic or my efficiency farming guide video, the Grand Arena tokens mostly end up in mod mats. It's another one of those things that are kind of like datacrons, right? Mods are very important in the game, but there's only so many mods that are important in the game, right? And it depends where you're at in the game that those mods are going to matter, right? So think about it like this. If there's 11 spots in GAC, right, or 5v5, we'll go over here, right? So you have four teams per division, 3 in the last one. So you have 11 teams total that you have to fill out. That's 11 times 55, or 11 times 5 characters. That's 55 characters. Times 6 mods each. That's about 330 mods that you need total, not including the difference that like arrows are easy to get, right? But, and then you double that, say, because you need 1 team to kill each team on the opponent, right? So say you need a full team of 5, which obviously you don't for things like Bane, SEE, but sure, let's call it 700 mods total. You only need 700 good mods. That's a lot of good mods, granted, but that's if you're maximizing every team here and getting like stellar mods on every single character. Most of us don't need to do that and never will do that, right? For those people that love mods, by all means, you mod to your heart's content. You maximize GAC to get as many Guild Arena tokens as you can, because it's more mod stuff, right? But for most of us, and especially if you're ignoring the PvP aspects of the game, you're only going to need mods to the extent that you need to hit certain thresholds in things like the raid, right? So the amount of mods that you need is much more limited. So all that to say that the difference here between the rewards for the Grand Arena tokens, the Grand Arena currency, is differing in value, and it gets less and less the less competitive you are at the end of the day. Okay, so that's covering all the rewards, and you see a little bit here too with the Zetas. Again, you know, that's based on if you're what ranking you're playing in the event and everything. Okay, but all in all, not too much of a differential there. Okay, so now that we've covered a ton about the rewards in GAC and Territory War and why you might play them, let's go ahead and go over and look at the data, right? All right, so I've made this spreadsheet, and the goal of this spreadsheet, the top row is we're gonna look at the wins, right? These are the same kind of, they're the same type of tables. So I just kind of copied them over and changed things slightly according to whether you're winning or you're losing, right? That's the ultimate goal of this. The link to this spreadsheet, it contains way more than this, and a lot of this is just like my internal thoughts and stuff, and I'll cover some of this in other videos. I've already covered some of it in other videos, but I'm gonna link the spreadsheet down in the description so that you can play around with it, see what use you get out of it. You'll want to copy it to your own Google Drive or download it as an Excel file to go ahead and tinker with it. But I find it pretty useful to see this stuff in data form, and I know a lot of you have asked for the spreadsheet, so I just want to let you know it's down in the description below. Okay, moving on from that though, what we're looking at is the rewards that you get for GAC, the rewards that you get for TW, the time spent based on the effort that you're putting into PvP, and then your total benefit overall. Now in this also, you have to consider how people compete in PvP. The main thing that people do in order to increase their chances of winning in PvP is datacrons, and the way you get datacrons is usually from conquest refreshes. Okay, so those are all the kind of things that we're looking at right here. Okay, now to talk about the big thing about PvP is winning and losing, right? That's the thing that's going to differentiate your rewards ultimately, whether you win or whether you lose, and how often you do each of those things, right? So something to know about Grand Arena that is very different from Territory Wars. Grand Arena is designed for most players, and the large most of players, like 99.9% of players, to win and lose about 50% of the time, right? So it's not realistic to go ahead and look at our wins for a season and losses for a season. By the way, we're looking at all this on a monthly basis, if that wasn't clear. So just keep in mind, we're looking at this as like a holistic monthly season type basis, right? So it's not realistic for the wins and losses to go ahead and set this to 9 and set the losses for a season to 0, right? I didn't put a 0 in here, misplay on that one. But so the point is that you're not going to win, even we'll just set it to 8, right? Winning 8 and losing 1 might happen in a season or two, right? It might happen every so often, like once every few months, but it's not realistic to maintain that pace, right? And eventually you're going to shoot so high, you're like kind of Icarus getting too close to the sun. I've been here, right? Keep in mind, I've been in Kyber 1 many a time. Eventually you hit a wall and you start losing, right? So you start going 3 and 6, and this is all going to equal out eventually. That's what the whole point system is designed. Now, at like just constantly playing and constantly trying with maximum effort or close to maximum effort, I've been able to maintain like a 66% win rate, or a 60% win rate. I'm sorry, not a 66% win rate. So we'll go ahead and look at my history here. Let's go ahead and see what my GAC history looks like. Keep in mind, all these numbers went down because I decided I'm not playing PvP anymore, essentially, right? So these killed my ratios, but if you look at the numbers, you're right, take these off, the percentages go up. It's been about 60, right? I had a pretty not great season, but before that, it was fine. I average about 5 and 4, and that's what a lot of players kind of do. 5 and 4, and then going 4 and 5 equals out to about 50%. Some players can definitely maintain 5 and 4. Some players can even maintain for a while 6 and 3, right? But it's kind of going to eventually come to a hedge. You're going to eventually get so high that you're going to get knocked down because the people are spending more in datacrons. They're much more committed. They're much better than you in a way. So all those considerations kind of factor in. And then I'm sure you've heard about the squish at some point. Maybe some of you haven't. But what happens is they take the number that you're at in terms of your ranking, and they set a squish point, right? They set like a where they want players to be. So what happens is you'll kind of get moved out of your bracket, right? So right now my ranking is 3342. I think the squish point is somewhere in Kyber 1. At the bottom. No, it's not Kyber 1. I'm sorry. I think it's at the bottom of Kyber 2. So it's right around here. So what will happen is, even though I'll end the season, say I end the season at 3342 exactly, when they adjust the rankings, I'll go up a few points or down a few points to get closer to whatever they set it at. Say they set it to 3340, then I'll probably stay the same or lose a point to go down to 3340. If they set the point higher, right, to 3,500, then I would go up quite a bit more in order to get that. That's at the end of season, well, into the beginning of next season, actually. At the first day of the season, when you do signups, that's when all the adjustments happen, and then people find themselves in different tiers. This is why, even though you end in Kyber 1, you could find yourself in Kyber 2 at the end, because it squishes you downward. It's to get all the players kind of closer to the area, so that they're closer in skill rating and they're not shooting too high or going too low, right? Some players find themselves, if you're like in a Rhodium, say, and you're at the top of Rhodium 2, you might find yourself higher up in a Rhodium 1 at the end of the season, right? So that's how the squish kind of works, and that's kind of what can affect your ranking, but it's just one of those mechanics that gets you closer to 50% win rate ultimately. So, when we're looking at the rewards, ultimately, what you can do here with this spreadsheet is set your division. I only have Kyber 4 because I think at the end game it's pretty easy to float in Kyber 4 and up. To some extent, I'm floating in Kyber 2 right now, right? And I've dropped 300 points, and this is with minimal effort. I'm talking about this 1% effort down here, right? So that's why I only have the top 4 tiers, but obviously you can kind of change the numbers according to what division you're in to get a better idea of what your total monthly crystals are going to look like, right? So the goal of this top area is to set up a winner, like somebody who wins, somebody who plays PvP a lot, somebody who really invests time into making sure their matchups are all good, their mods are good, their turn orders are good for certain counters, you know, scouting their opponent on .gg, those type of things, right? So we're gonna go ahead and set this person to 3 losses and 6 wins. That's a pretty good winning record, 66% win record. Usually with that, you'll get 1 win and you'll be in the top 2 to 4 each time, right? So actually that doesn't quite add up, because if you win 1, then you got 3 wins, and then you would have to get 2 wins on each of these. So it's going to be 1, 1, and 1 at 6 and 3. All right, but you know what? We can be even more generous. We'll just do 7 and 2 and give them the top 2 rankings, right? That's fine. It doesn't matter ultimately. It's just that giving you a picture of what the crystals are going to look like overall for somebody in Kyber 1. They're going to get that daily reward times 30 days. They're going to end up with that many crystals just from the daily. Sorry, something's happening with my screen. And then you got your wins, your crystals from that win. If you adjust the division, that number goes down, right? All that's taken care of automatically. And then your losses, and then the rankings, right? And then your division also changes according to the division you end in. That's all automatically in the calculator. Okay. So then let's go over to TW and look at that. Again, mainly the thing that you're looking at is the droid brands. That's why people are playing. They want more droid brands. And if you want more Datacron materials, then by all means, you know, you can put effort into Territory War 2. There's going to be a certain subset of people, I've met them, I've been them for a long time, where you care about GAC, but you don't care about TW. Right? And that's because TW is a different ball game entirely. It requires a lot more from your guild. You know, it's not on you to win or lose sometimes. So obviously a person could find themselves somewhere in the middle where they're not putting 100% of effort into TW, but they're 100% into GAC, but they're not putting 100% into TW. Vice versa. Some people like TW more than GAC. They focus their Omicrons only on Territory Wars to help the guild and not Grand Arena, or vice versa, right? So this is not an analysis of every single player in the game. You are going to find yourself somewhere in between the person that puts in maximum effort and zero effort, right? My goal is to give you kind of a snapshot, show you a best case scenario versus a worst case scenario, and show you, I personally don't think the rewards are that drastic of a difference. And if you're somewhere in between, right, the gap is lower between no effort and some effort, right? That's the ultimate picture that I'm trying to show you. So droid brains being the factor, if you're in the top one, right, if you can change this to go down to the first place that you can get droid brains, which is 300 million, right? The difference is 1 and 0, right? And then you can adjust the wins per month. You have 4 territory wars per month, so adjust that according to your wins. That's kind of going to give you a picture, right? So we'll go back up to the top and we'll set it at 3 wins and 1 loss is a 75%. I'm not going to do marginal counting here, but technically if you're in 100% or near 100% win rate guild, right, which you can't sustain forever, they do eventually lose, but you can get pretty close. Like I said, I was in 95% win rate for a long time. We carried that win rate for 6 months to a year. Then you're going to get more, right? But the maximum that you're going to get per month is 20. That's all you can get maximum. Whereas the minimum, if you get 0 wins per month, you're going to find yourself with 4 minimum, right? So the differential is maximum 16 droid brains. So when we're looking at the time spent, right? So moving on to the time spent, this is hard to calculate. This is going to be absolutely different from everybody, but I'll give you my thoughts on what I think 100% effort is in GAC and TW. In GAC, you're looking at, for just one event, right? Not the whole month. We're just looking at right here, one event, right? So you have 3 attack rounds, you have different defense phases. Now, most of the time when you do the setup at the beginning of the season, right, there's a certain amount of time that's spent on that. We'll normally be looking at remodding our entire roster. We've gotten new mods over the month. You might be a person that mods immediately, right? You can factor that in if you want to. It's kind of impossible to calculate, but typically at the beginning of a season before lock-in, I will remod my roster. I use hot utils, but some people will do different things. I remod my roster according to the mods that I gained throughout the season, because there's not a whole lot of incentive to readjust mods throughout the season, because you only have 3 lock-in points, right? So usually it'll be a whole season type thing for me. And obviously you could put in more effort, but that modding process would take me about an hour in general. So if we give that an hour and then we give defense, right, another couple hours, because you're setting your defenses, if you're putting in maximal effort, you're setting your defenses according to what your opponent has often. You'll be scouting the matchup, seeing if they have certain datacrons, seeing maybe how their characters are modded to the degree that you can pick that up. You'll be looking at what beat their characters or what they kind of used on their team, what you can expect they'll use. Right, if you can spend a lot more time than I'm talking about spending, which is like maybe a half an hour an event, a phase. So it's gonna vary, right? And then when you get into attacks, you're also gonna want to be scouting to see what their back row probably looks like. You want to go ahead and focus on map out your entire attack phase, what teams you have available to you, where you're going to use them, looking up the win rates, what the best win rate, whether you're willing to take a chance or not. This is going to depend on your datacrons, picking the right datacrons, making sure you have the right datacrons for other things. So you can spend a lot of time, but normally if I'm playing PvP, if I'm playing GAC, I'm spending an hour, right? You got 11 matches. If each of those matches takes 3 minutes, that's 33 minutes already, not counting the in-between switchover time. Some matches take longer. And then you also have the ships, right? So you have 3 more ships. So you actually have 14. You're easily looking at 45 minutes if you're spending 3 minutes of battle. Then you're looking at closer to an hour if you're doing any type of preparation for that. and if those matches take a little bit longer, and then you could be looking at as much as an hour and a half, depending on. Now, a lot of people split this up. I don't really tend to see that too much. But there's every now and then there's a match where it's like they didn't do a full clear all in one go, right? They'll separate, they'll do one area and then they do another. But even if you're breaking it up, you're still kind of spending that time, right? And again, this isn't every player. This is the player that spends 100% PvP effort every time throughout the month, right? So again, you can do less and you might end up with similar rewards, but you're not putting in 100% effort, and that's okay. We can adjust these numbers, right? So if we look at the person that does 80, right, we drop that down a couple hours, right? Maybe you're not scouting. Maybe you're only setting it defense once and then you don't care about it for the rest of the event. You can go lower, right? You can not scout your opponent's attacks at all, and then you're just worried about your attack map. You're just worried about making sure that you can take down whatever defenses are in front of you with your attacks, and you want to save something for the back row just in case something's back there, right? You can drop it down all the way to 1%. And what I view 1% as is it's really quick, right? In GAC, I push sign up, and then I don't even care about my defense because it literally doesn't matter. But sure, you can spend a few minutes putting all the GLs on the defense, right? Then when the attack phase comes, you just attack once, get your 10 banners, win or loss, and you're done, right? So with that, you're gonna lose every time. But you know, there's probably some middle ground, right? Even at 1%, you can sometimes get wins, because what happens is the other opponent didn't care to play either. They saw all defenses and they said, you know what, I'm not even attacking, I don't care, or they forget to attack, or they just do their attack because life got busy and they get their 10 banners. You find somebody playing the same I don't care about PvP strategy, so then you get the win because you just sneak in a win, a single combat win for 75 points, right? It happens. This is kind of why, again, the system is designed for you to win 50% of your matches. You're very rarely going to be the person, just like you're very rarely going to be the person that wins every single match, you're very rarely going to be the person that loses every single match, right? You have to actively kind of try to not do anything in order to lose every single match or not sign up, right? But the reason this is it's 1%, not 0%, is because you're signing up and you're attacking to get your banners, right? That's all that the 1% is. There's nothing more to it. It's putting a half an hour on that is a lot of time considering how simple that is. And TW is even easier because you just, set a defense. Right now we have a very special defensive map that only requires a few defenses per territory war. So, you could spend as little as nothing in this. And as long as you do 3 defenses minimum, or 2 or 3 defenses, you'll get minimum banners for territory wars, and you'll go ahead and get your loss rewards, right? So then that's the hours spent, and then you multiply that by how many events there are. In GAC, there's 3 weekly events. In territory war, there's 4 territory wars per month. So we're going to set that to 100% effort to get that picture of what we're talking about, right? With somebody who wins. This is the winning bracket, right? So maximum rewards, right, is what we're looking at. Crystals, for the crystal's sake, you're looking at 18,835 crystals total. The cost is what we're seeing over here, and this is the cost of the conquest refreshes, right? So you can set that according to this, right? So if you want gold crate, which is just for conquest, you're basically spending no crystals on refreshes. You're just finding a way to get gold crate and leaving it at that. You're not even doing the crystal refreshes required to get red crate. Red crate, you're doing a little bit. You're spending 600 crystals. That's about what it cost me this last conquest to red crate, but I was not really efficient. But if you're being efficient, you can get lower, right? And I also was playing it a little bit comfortable. Like, I didn't want to risk it. I did have some battles at the end that I could have just not spent crystals on, but I didn't want to get to the last minute and then spend those. I was doing like basically 1 refresh every now and then. After the first few days of conquest, I spent 1 refresh a day until I didn't anymore. So that's basically how I got to 600 for the red crate, right? Because even if you're not doing PvP, the character could still be important to you. But the reason I have gold crate in here for somebody who doesn't care about PvP at all is because that conquest character is going to be less likely to be important. In our current situation, we have a couple conquest characters that are going to be available in the raid, right? So that could be more important to somebody. But at the end of the day, I already have my teams. I'm already maxing the raid in personal box, right? Those conquest characters mean nothing to me. And I'm not playing PvP, so they like, what am I going to use them for? Mostly conquest characters are good for the raid. That's why they have 3, or not raid, they're good for PvP. That's why they have 3 PvP Omicrons every time. But all that being said, that's kind of what that is. 50s is how I used to do things previous to the season that I'm just done with Datacrons. I'm just done with PvP for the foreseeable future. But 50s is what I was doing, and I would max out my 50s on conquest. Anything over red crate, I would just start farming Datacrons, right? And the way I kind of saw that was I was spending 2100 crystals a month in order to maintain Kyber 1 and whatever value that brought, right? And I also, it would help out in TW, right? So that was a benefit. And I didn't have to worry about figuring out how many refreshes I need to get red crate. That was a little side benefit, right? But what I noticed is up in Kyber 1, even the edge of Kyber 2 going into Kyber 1, you have people spending a lot more on Datacrons, especially with focused Datacrons being a thing now. They're spending a lot more on data cache and data materials in the Datacron store. They're using shard shop currency, but they're also using crystals, and they're buying different Datacron packs. They have to be, because I know after all of these seasons playing my 2100 crystals into Conquest, how many Datacrons I have. They have oftentimes double. You know, when you go and look at the first conquest of a new Datacron set, and you're like, okay, well, I'm doing the 50s and I have probably between 4 and 6 D9s, right? We're hoping to get what we got. Maybe we have 4 to 6 D9 Datacrons. Then you go against somebody with 15 or 20, they're spending a lot. And I've talked to a lot of people. It's completely normal for people that enjoy this game mode to be spending the hundreds, doing the hundreds. So the hundreds jumps up in the cost quite a bit. So again, you can adjust it for wherever you're at. If you're somebody that does hundreds, this is the cost you're looking at. If you're somebody that does 50s, this is what you're looking at, right? And that's going to take away from your overall crystal reward that you get from GAC. Now, there's no cost for the droid brains, right? The cost is up here in the Datacron. It's the same cost. But so we're just kind of looking at this holistically. Technically, if you're a person that doesn't invest in GAC, you don't invest in Datacrons, right? So you're still gold crate, but you're still getting your rewards. You're just gonna have to knock your GAC rewards down. But yeah, so that's what a winner looks like. That's what somebody who plays this game in order to win, right? We'll set this perfectly up for them. They're in the top bracket. They win every TW basically. They spend 100% effort maxing this game, and they go 7-2 most seasons, right? They maintain a high win rate. We're talking about 70. What is that? 75%, 76%, something like that. So they maintain a high win rate, right? And they get as many rewards as you pretty much can get. We'll knock this down because there's only 3, right? But they would win one of those usually. So then we go down to what a loser looks like. When I say loser, I do not mean you are a loser. I'm not a loser, but I am okay with putting in minimal effort and losing most of my matches now. So we go ahead down and look what this looks like, right? So I can win 1 with barely trying. That is usually pretty possible. Out of 9 matches, somebody ran into a time thing they don't want to play, and even if I don't win 1 every season, there's going to be some seasons where that strategy of just waiting until the last minute wins me 2, right? And I've knocked us down to Kyber 4 because I think that's definitely where you can float. I see people don't care about the round in Kyber 2, right? So there's definitely way more of those people that don't give a damn, but they have 13 million GP rosters in Kyber 4. And I've been down there too, and I've seen it, right? You even used to be one of them. And when I get down there, I probably still will be one of them that just doesn't care, and I forget to sign up, because when you don't care about something, you lose attention on it, and if you're doing something during the day, it's easy to miss. I've been competitive and I still forget to attack, right? Because life gets in the way. So, but that being said, drop it down. If you win 1, you're gonna get 5th or 7th place. So that's where this number comes from. That's how I'm factoring that all in. Droid brains, even not caring, basically we have a high enough score, high enough GP. We're 670 million GP, right? We don't sandbag. So they give you a trench match every 3 losses or so, or every 2 losses on TW, where it's a little bit closer. I don't know exactly why it's closer. They drop the GP or they make sure that more players are joined. I don't know exactly what they do, but the third match is around pretty easier. And after looking at it, we've looked at the history, and that does carry over. I know there's been some content creators that put out videos that said it doesn't carry over, but it does. It'll carry over a little bit until you win, but usually you'll win your 3rd or 4th TW, right? So that's why I'm putting this at 3-1. We typically, even though we don't put in a lot of effort in TW, and I mean not a lot of effort at all, we end up doing around a 33% win rate, right? Go back over to the profile here. Let's go ahead and see what our TW looks like. Again, I'm not trying to lie here. I'm saying lose everyone. I don't care. That's not the goal. Where do I find this? Oh, this is on the guild, not my own. That's why. Look at TW. Yeah, see, last 3 months, 33, a little bit lower all time, but this is basically winning 1 every 3 matches, right? But that's not nice round numbers, so I'm going to, again, be less favorable to this side and say we lose 3 and win 1, right? No big deal. And we're in the top bracket. Obviously that changes, but the gap gets lower if you go again in lower brackets. So this is my 1% effort. This is me dropping in whatever 2 defenses that I need to in order to get defensive banners. Sometimes I forget and then I have to go and throw a GL at something, a couple GLs to get my offensive banners. And GAC, this is me clicking sign up. 10 minutes before 2 o'clock is my payout. 10 minutes before the round end, I go ahead and I throw my 10 banners in. Or if I don't care about the match at all and I know I'm going to be busy, I go ahead and send it at the beginning. But it's trying to eke out a win. If I stay at 0, my opponent's incentivized to stay at 0 because they don't know what's going on, and then they try to mad dash at the last minute. It's funny watching it happen because I just don't care at this moment, but it's fun watching it happen, right? So all in all, I'm spending 2.3 hours per month on PvP aspects of the game in order to get minimal rewards, basically. Whereas up here at 100% effort, you're spending quite a bit more watching the defenses, making sure your defenses are right. TW, you're verifying which strategies work. You're waiting for guild leaders to give you advice. You're reporting all your matches in there. These are the kind of things that happen there. So our total rewards overall for losing, in Kyber 4, which I'm still in Kyber 2, so I'm going to be much higher above this for a while because I'm getting 40 extra crystals a month or day for the entire month and things like that. Yeah, I'm sitting at 10,600 crystals, right? And I have 0 cost if I gold crate, right? If I red crate, we change that to 600, no big deal. And we're getting 8 droid brains because we do get that 1, right? That gives us 5 droid brains still. So we get that 1 per month. And that's what this is all factoring in. So the moment you've all been waiting for, if you have been, we're looking at the differential between somebody who puts in 100% effort and somebody who puts in 1% effort, right? And when we look at that, this is the difference. All in all, because of the cost, this is a huge dictator. The cost of the 100s in Conquest is costing you a lot of your profits, right? And even in terms of putting in the 50s, it's going to cost you a lot of your profits because you're not going to be the 7-2 consistent player, right? You're more likely to be the 6-3 player or the 5-4 player. When I've been maintaining a 60% win rate, when I've been in Kyber 1, right? I don't go 7-2. That is very rare. I go 5-4 most of the time, right? But anyways, for the purposes of looking at this, right, just to give you an idea, the differential in crystals is 865 crystals per month. And the differential on the hours is 34 hours, damn near a full-time job, right? But we'll say part-time just to be generous. So you're putting in so many more hours for the PvP aspect of the game to only get that much more in crystals. Now, if you're managing to go 100% in TW, right? If you're a person that's doing 100% TW, you're also getting a differential of 12 droid brains, which is nothing to sneeze at. And if you value those droid brains, but valuing droid brains, I made another video that was pretty controversial and people were really mad that I was saying to buy droid brains. They do not value them at the crystal cost of 300 crystals per droid brain. They value them much less. Why? Because they've been okay in TW for most of their account's career, and they're not at the high level, which they have like 35 R9s, right? So they don't care about droid brains. So this value goes even lower for people in the lower aspects of the game. It's all about that differential, right? And it's not that high between a top end player that's scoring 0 and a high end player that's doing 100%. It's not that much different. It's only 12 droid brains per month. Now, granted, it's for the entire guild, maybe, but it's just not ultimately that's not even a full R9, right? In terms of difference. So this is why at the end of the day, I've decided I just want to pull away from PvP. I've been doing it a long time and I just can't afford where I'm at in life to spend the extra 30 hours. If you can, if you enjoy it, by all means, go ahead and do it. But this is why I say PvP is not efficient in terms of getting rewards for your time and energy and upgrades. Another thing to consider on this TW aspect when you're trading TW, because again, I mentioned a lot of these players like GAC, but they hate TW, or they like TW and they hate GAC. On the TW side, you're investing Omicrons in order to be competitive in TW. You have to ask yourself, and my guild's done this analysis, we've talked at great length many times over the course of the years, whether it's worth it to invest in some Omicrons in order to get our TW rate more consistent, to get a little bit above 1 in 3. Maybe, you know, we go 1 in 3 and then we go 2 in 1, right? That's the hope. And we're also sometimes afraid about never winning again because some of this gets crazy and we fall behind in Omicrons. But at the end of the day, when I talked about it, when I was high in GAC and low in TW, I didn't want to spend my Omicrons on TW. You know, as an officer, that was the decision I was making and trying to come up with for the entire guild. And I just, looking at this, I wouldn't trade 1 Omicron ability for 12 droid brains. Now maybe I would. I don't know. I still don't know. I'm still iffy on that because I like my Omicrons. And when I was in GAC, I used a lot of them. I'm almost, you know, maxing out on my GAC Omicrons. But I thought these were way more useful compared to these that were speculative. And if I can't get the whole guild to put the Omicrons on, it means nothing. Right? So that's another cost that people aren't considering here. I can't put Omicron value here. And I don't know what Omicrons you're required to put on by your guild. I don't know which ones you choose to put on. But for somebody who has 1 TW Omicron in their entire roster, I can tell you I don't want to trade TW Omicrons for droid brains. I'm fine. Miss me on that, right? Because the Omicrons are also going to phase out eventually. And then there's no residual value. Because maybe you can say, okay, well, you put on 1 Omicron, but you do this, you go 4-0. And again, we weren't talking about 4-0. We were talking about the difference between 2 and 2, right? 2 and 2 for 12 and 3 and 1, or 1 and 3, right? So we're talking about 4 Omicrons down here, right? We're talking about a 4 differential. That's going to take 5 months in order to get 1 R9 on the differential, but I'm investing Omicron materials and those Omicrons might become irrelevant. Look at how many TW characters have Omicrons, how many they were good for a short period of time, and now nobody uses them on their TW map, right? There's a lot of them on that list. You could even go over here to .gg and go to your Omicrons and look at all the characters that have Omicrons applied, all the Omicrons we have in our guild. We don't use Mara Jade anymore. Jahani rarely sees use. Embo you can put on Jabba, but it don't make a difference. Phasma doesn't see, at the higher end at least. I know in lower ends you can see First Order and stuff. But how many Omicrons are on this list that you do not see in TW anymore, right? So that's why I didn't like doing it. And the same is true vice versa, right? For somebody that loves TW, they're putting there and they don't want to put Omicrons over here to trade for crystals, because those are too valuable for TW. It's not worth it, right? Because whatever they're spending to buy. So that's just something to consider for you and whatever position you're in, right? But this is the maximum differential, really. Like, you're not getting a bigger crystal gap. You can if you are somehow winning a lot and you are not putting in 100s on Conquest. That does change pretty significantly, but you're not going to be able to maintain Kyber 1 if you're doing that. I've been in Kyber 1, I've been on the edges, I've been a little bit deeper, and the datacrons get ridiculous, especially with focused datacrons. You're not pushing that high into Kyber 1, not spending hundreds on datacrons. So even being generous, we'll drop it down to 50s and say, okay, somebody putting in 100% effort makes 5,000 crystals and 12 droid brains. Again, I'll take my 30 hours back. And even if we want to be generous and we'll say, oh no, they did get that with 80% effort, I still take my 30 hours. Okay, you put in 60% effort, whatever that looks like. You're putting 5 hours of DAC in per event. Okay, I'll still take my 20 hours of time for this, you know? I'm not trying to be mean, but that's just where my life is at and where I trade time. I play other games. If you don't play other games and this is your game of choice and you're like, PvP is fucking awesome, more power to you, and I hope you continue to get that enjoyment out of this. This isn't to tell anybody not to do something. This is just giving an ideal picture of what's happening when you are playing PvP and when you're investing. Because I'm doing this as a PSA. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. That is not my goal of this video. But I have seen people that thought that this was a good investment. That they literally thought they were making crystals by investing and getting their datacrons up. They had no idea that they were shelling out that much and they were only winning, you know, whatever you can win by maxing this out. So that's why I make these videos, because I just want to dispel myths. I want to make sure that people understand what they're bargaining for, right? It's not to say that they can't do that. If you want to spend 200s on conquest refreshes, go for it. Right? Whatever makes you happy. And sometimes you got the roster, you're 15 million GP. What do you care about crystals? Right? Like, I don't know your situation. And this is coming from somebody who was free to play for 8 years that I've never spent on datacron material. I don't know what that's like. I was free to play for most of the game. The only things I bought are light speed bundles and recently episode passes, and I'm not buying that right now. So like, that's the only thing I bought for most of my time in this game. So I can't speak to somebody who has discretionary income that wants to spend on this game, because I just don't. Right? So if that's you and the datacrons are no big deal to you and it helps you keep that competitive edge, it's just like when we're trading dollars for crystals, right? Like the win can be really high here, but if you're spending $30-40 on datacrons, you know you're not playing an efficiency game. You know you're not making money on this, right? You know you're not making crystal value on that, and that's okay. Because yeah, I mean, it's a lost cause when you put any money. When I buy the episode pass, I'm buying things in a game. It doesn't change anything, right? It's not an investment. It's a liability, right? And that's okay. But that's why I just want to clear this up, because I have seen people spend here thinking they were making good, efficient decisions. So if I can dispel some of that for people and then they can make an informed decision and do that anyway, more power to them. I hope this helps you, and I hope you play with this and get your numbers down and just see kind of what it looks like for you, what you're giving up for the time you're spending, you know, and be honest, because this number's not going to be the same for everybody, right? You can just go ahead and change this overall number for how many evers. You can track it for one season and just see how many hours it takes you. A lot of people don't realize how many hours they spend on this game. I've been shocked myself, even looking at my screen time on my phone, thinking about what the hell how much time did I spend looking and twirling my characters around? Like, because I sure as hell didn't spend it on battles, but it happens, right? And then you can be a content creator and spend an hour or so making a spreadsheet like this and not playing the game at all. So, I mean, that's something to consider too. How many hours am I spending in PvE, or, you know, denigrating PvP? Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some use out of this video. Refer back to it. The spreadsheet's down in the description below. If you got value out of this, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for the next time that I upload a video that you might disagree or agree with. But I hope to see you next time. Have a nice day.